Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Spiritual Forum. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you so much for supporting the Spiritual Forum podcast, and I hope you enjoyed the 2023 season. 2024 is upon us, and I have some thoughts on what might be in store for us this year. I want to talk a little bit about that and then reflect just briefly back on the podcast in 2023 and pull out some fairly significant lessons that I think may help us in this coming year. So I think 2024 is going to be a very, very, very interesting year. We are at a turning point as a species. We can make all sorts of choices as to what kind of world we want to have going forward and who we are going to be. I think we're going to see a lot of change. I don't think any of us have any sense of what, like AI and robotics, how fast that change is coming and how it's going to impact our daily lives, how it's going to impact our professional lives, how it's going to impact our financial lives. So, we are going to be seeing an acceleration of change, and that can be unsettling. It's very, very important then to be really grounded in faith and be able to discern the still small voice inside so you can know what is right for you. I think that humanity is evolving and well, we've always been evolving, but I think we have this choice of evolving or devolving. And the population of the planet is about 8 billion people, and we are at all different levels of consciousness. And there are many models that explain these different levels of consciousness. And let's just say there are six or seven. It's estimated that 70 or 80% are at the lower two levels of consciousness, and the rest of us are interspersed in the upper levels. And I don't mean that we're all at the top. We are all growing from whatever level we're at to the next level, and that's what is our job. Our job is to grow in consciousness from where we are to the next level, and as we do that, we will lift up the consciousness of the collective, of the whole world. And so for those of us who are on the spiritual path, we are aware that we are here for spiritual growth. And I think 2024 is going to be a year where we have the opportunity to grow ourselves and to support the vision of another way of being in the world. Those are just my thoughts. Now, things are kind of chaotic out there. Economy's not so great. I guess it depends on who you talk to, but we also have a world of wars going on out there. We had a few years where we were without war, and here we are back immersed in a couple of them. And so who knows how that's going to unfold for all of us? It could be potentially very disruptive. So 2024 may be a disruptive year. In any case, I know that our work is to move through this with ease and grace and to find the good, to do our work, and to find a way to authentically honor ourselves and be at peace within ourselves. And to do that, we're going to have to remember who we are. We're going to have to hone the spiritual gifts of discernment, which is our ability to judge rightly, our spiritual gift of will, which is our ability to choose well for us, our spiritual gift of love, which is to stay connected universally with everyone, and our spiritual gift of imagination so that we can imagine new ways of being. And the other thing that is up for us is that we anchor ourselves in faith and living in alignment with who we are. Now, looking back on the podcast, I put out 49 episodes last year. And I just want to reiterate that every single guest who I have on this podcast, I learn from. And I just love how the divine does that. When I cross paths with somebody, there is something for me to learn. And so I have learned from everyone, and I hope you have too. So I just want to pick out a few podcasts that moved my heart, that opened my heart and moved the dial on my own perception of reality, thinking that perhaps this will inspire you too as we go into 2024. And remember, I have a lineup of new guests next year. Very excited about what's coming. And I know that we're going to learn from each of them. So I'm not doing a best of 2023. I'm just merely sharing a few things that I think are just bright lights from 2023. The first one is Pierre Pradervand, who lives in Geneva, Switzerland. And he was 86 years old. Maybe he's 87 now. What an amazing man. What a man of light and love. And I just felt really privileged to be in his space. He lives in appreciation and awe every day. And he says, I say thank you. He feels he's so privileged. And he wrote a book called Spiritual Discernment. And I think discernment's very important for us. But his point is discern what is right for you. Don't let anybody else tell you what is right for you. Learn to become your own teacher. So here are a few things that I learned from him. Integrity demands that every single moment you be totally alive with your highest sense of what is right. And for me, the number one reason of our temporary sojourn on earth is to simply grow in love. So think about that as you ponder the new year. What would it look like to simply grow in love? I want to share his theology. And this is it sounds like a prayer to me that he says every day, Creator, bless my mind that I may think only thoughts of love. Bless my ears that all I hear, I listen to with love. Bless my eyes that I may see all with love. And bless my lips that every word that comes from them is a word of love. And bless my heart that I may give and receive love. And bless my feet that I may walk with peace upon this earth. I just love that. Pierre has a spiritual practice of blessing people. And what I mean by that, or what he means by that, is honestly, legitimately, from the bottom of your heart, wishing only good for the person that you're blessing. And it doesn't matter if they're the neighbor, if they're the gardener, the grocery store worker, your boss, somebody who you have a lot of trouble with. And he does this with people he has a lot of trouble with. So just blessing everybody. And I just love this practice because it lifts you up. It's like gratitude. It just lifts you up, lifts your heart up and pulls you into another place. And I think it's one way that we honor the divine within us. So those are some little wonderful spiritual nuggets from Pierre. The next one is Jeff Thompson. Now, Jeff is a playwright and he is also a martial arts person, and he's a former bouncer and he's a BAFTA award winner. And he had an amazing story of forgiveness. Now, I'm not going to go into his story, but he was abused as a young boy and he found himself in a situation in a cafe some decades later. And he chose to confront his abuser and he forgave him. Now, what I think is interesting about Jeff is he shared his thoughts that forgiving is not something that we actively do. He doesn't believe that humans are the ones to forgive, but that when we forgive, we just bundle up our burden and we hand it to God and then let God work with the person. And now the work is with the abuser, and the abused person, the victim, is able to walk away freely and lightly. He says, when we forgive someone, they should be very afraid. It means we have given them over to the law of reciprocity. It means we have let them go. So I just thought that was just an amazing teaching. The idea that forgiveness isn't mine to do, but it's God's to do. What is mine to do is to choose to not carry the burden. So maybe think about who in your life you're ready to forgive. And maybe it's yourself. But what burdens are you carrying from the past that you can just hand off to God and allow the law of reciprocity or the law of cause and effect, the law of karma to take effect? The other thing that Jeff said that I was just really, really, really moved by, it really changed how I look at the polarities in the world. He has this idea that we have evil and good inclinations within us, like a right terminal of energy and a left terminal of energy in a light bulb. So this is like the positive pole and the negative pole. And we tend to think in our lives that positive is what we want to be, negative is what we want to get rid of, positive is light, negative is darkness. But when you look at the metaphor of the light bulb, neither the right terminal nor the left terminal exude light. There is no light that comes from either of those terminals until the filament bridges them. Now he says the filament is our human will. It's our power to choose. And it is our power to choose to bring these two polarities together within ourselves and also in the outer world. And it is this joining of the negative and the positive, or the right and the left, that creates light. And that is true of a light bulb. Now, this has changed my way that I look at the polarities in the world, the good and the evil, the light and the dark, and all of that. That it is just so clearly that in order for us to be light, that we must join our evil, negative, dark, shadow characteristics, parts of us, with the good and the righteous and all of that, that these must come together. This theme has come up many times on this podcast. But what's so interesting is that the filament is, according to Jeff, our will, that it is our choice to bring those together. So I thought that was just a really, really interesting teaching. And I went away it's stuck with me. I'm still thinking about it. And I hope you do too. Now, Vinnie Tolman, he did my podcast number 197, and he had a after death experience. And I think after death experiences are always so interesting. He had a dramatic story of being dead for 45 minutes and being resuscitated by a rookie EMT guy and being in a coma for 3 days. So, that's the drama of the story. But he went through, in those 3 days he was a coma, beyond the veil, he went through a purification process where his soul was purifying itself on this extraordinary journey to this higher level. And there were 10 steps that he learned in this purification process. And I'm just going to name a few of them. I think they'll all sound kind of familiar. Be authentic, love everyone, and everyone from Vinny's lessons included animals as well, which makes sense because all of creation, we are here to love. It doesn't say, thou shalt not kill people. It just says, thou shalt not kill. And releasing prejudices, even against the intolerant, a really great lesson for us to learn as we get so self-righteous about how amazing we are and how judgmental they are. And we're judging the people we're judging, and we're doing the same thing they are. Just love everyone, release all prejudice. He also learned that there is a purpose for evil, and that evil is part of helping us to evolve. And I do believe that's true. And that we are ultimately all one. I'm going to have a guest on soon about other near death experiences. The next one I want to talk about is episode 206 with Lois Bouchard. And Lois is somebody I wasn't sure about having on the podcast, but Spirit kept nudging me, kept saying, call Lois, and I did. Yeah. I just had to follow the call, and what I found was she was just a remarkable woman. And I am just so amazed at people who can be struck down with so much bad news, bad things happening to them, and still not just living through it, but flourishing, prevailing, and having complete faith and no fear. So Lois is someone who was diagnosed with a fatal autoimmune disease. No one can treat it. She suffered a stroke in 2022. She was also diagnosed with Parkinson's. It's like bam, bam, bam. But in the face of this, she lives with no fear, worry, or anxiety. She is at peace. And this is ultimately, it's like Lois the Saint. This is ultimately where we want to be, where no matter what is happening in the world, no matter what hurricane or tornado we're in, no matter what disaster we're in, no matter what joy we're in, no matter whatever we're in, whatever it is, that we are not living in fear, worry, or anxiety, and that our current state is peace. And she found her peace from 3 years that she spent sitting with spirit and listening. very similar to Myrtle Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity. And the message that she got from Spirit over those 3 years, she compiled into a book, and in a nutshell is, we are never alone, we are always protected, we each have a destiny, and faith, hope, and love guide us through all adversity, and that we're to look for the light where we're in darkness, because God will lift our heart. And that's the message that I think is so beautiful from Lois. So thank you, Lois. Last is the healing story of Serena Faith Masterson. Now, Serena was a victim of MK Ultra mind control experiments, and she was raised in a satanic cult. Now, I know a lot of you out there might doubt all of that. You don't know that these things are true, or you don't want to think those things are true. And I'm not here to convert you. I'm only here to say that I've talked to enough people and done enough research. For me, I believe Serena, and I believe that she was subjected to horrific circumstances for her childhood and early adulthood. And out of this, in order for her to survive, her psyche broke into 300 different parts. So this is like dissociative identity disorder. And she spent 35 years healing herself under the guidance of a wonderful woman named Norma, who's dedicated 20 years of her life helping Serena to integrate herself and to find the deep, authentic self within her, and to learn through a practice of breath work how to access that deep, authentic self over and over again. And eventually, Serena became whole and healed. And I believe, as she does, that her healing and her choice for life over and over and over again not only raised her own consciousness, but impacted the collective consciousness. And I'm just so amazed by her story, because I think it just shows that with spirit, it's all possible. It's possible. And that we're never alone, and that fear is not the reality of this planet. Those are the takeaways from Serena Faith Masterson. Kate McNally, she is a Quaker, and she has a wonderful message that inspires us to put our values in action. And the Quaker values are peace, equality, simplicity, truth, and integrity. And I love that she shares that ministry is where your great joy meets the world's needs. So she reminds us to put our values in action. And I've said this many times in my ministry that Jesus said, "Follow me, follow me, follow me, follow me." And that's not what the religion about Jesus is really about. It's about worshiping him. When Jesus said, "Follow me," and I think it's a reminder that we look at that life and how he lived and how he loved and how he spread love wherever he was, and how he told us that God is not just near, but at hand. And these are the messages that we can take into our lives in 2024 as we walk in faith and love and discernment and wisdom and joy and all of that. Just to conclude, again, I loved everyone I talked to last year. I love the awakening stories of Renee King Sonnen and Diane Waltner. I love the philosophical conversations I had. I have many of those. Some of note were with Mark Gober and Murray Hieronymus, Michael Coyote, Colm Holland, Lisa Kimmer, many, many others. I love transformation stories. The transplant doctor, Dr. David Weil, how he went from an arrogant "I am God" doctor to actually recognizing that he is the hands of the divine is working through him. Love that story. And I love talking with Guy Finley about fearless living. I could go on and on and on about the amazing conversations that I had last year. Just closing from Michael Coyote, episodes 214 and 215, we are each on a unique, infinite journey. Do not lose sight that you are on a unique, infinite journey. Your journey is your own. It is not mine. It is not a family member's. Everybody has their own unique, infinite journey. And from Dr. Howard Eisenberg, episode 200, Now is a critical time to use our collective power to dream up a better world for our shared dream reality. So I hope those inspiring thoughts can lift you up as we leave 2023 and move into 2024. I wish everyone the best. Thank you for your support. Thank you for showing up. And email me at revcarolsaunders@gmail.com if you have any thoughts, if you have any comments, any ideas for guests, if you want to come on the show. And happy New Year. Happy New Year, even though I think it's going to be a real doozy. All right. Thank you, everyone. And I now close the spiritual forum.